Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ella, and I'm one of the staff at NCJAR. So, before we get started, I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Katie Lance. Katie is a nationally recognized keynote speaker, trainer, and real estate marketing expert who has helped thousands of agents and brokers elevate their brand and content strategy. She's known for making social media and marketing simple, practical, and fun. Please join me in welcoming Katie Lance. Katie,
Thank you.
take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ella. And thank you so much to the team for having me out and back. This is part three of our three-part series. So welcome, welcome. So excited to be here and love seeing so many of you who are here with us live. If you haven't already, feel free to type in the chat, say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from. And we're going to have a lot of fun today. So this class is going to go for about an hour. Everything is being recorded. I'm also going to share a link in a few minutes to all my slides. I'll share it here in the beginning in case you have to leave early, but I'll also share it at the end as well. This is actually part of a three-part series. So if you missed part one or part one we did in February, part two was in March, I believe, and then this is the last part. So if you missed any of that, I will share the links with the slides so you can catch up. But today we're talking all about content creation, and it is such an important topic. I was just sharing with Ella right before I went live. I think this is such an important topic right now, especially as we are kind of in the heat of the spring season, the spring market. Summer is right around the corner, and so now is a really great time to assess where you're at with your marketing plan, with your content plan, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today. By the way, I am Katie Lance. If we are not yet connected on social, you can follow me. I'm at Katie Lance just about everywhere. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I've got a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that and would love if you give me a follow. That'll take you over to my Instagram. I live out in California, so I'm on the West Coast. I'm still on coffee time here on my time. And I have been in the world of social media and marketing for about 2 decades. I work side by side with my husband, Paul. We've been in business together for almost 14 years. So, partners in life, partners in business. We have two teenage boys who keep us very busy. You can see here we're a big Disneyland family. I'm a keynote speaker, I'm an author, and we really specialize in helping agents and brokers get their arms around social media. I always tell folks we help agents and brokers get smarter about social media. And I can just tell you personally, I really feel when it comes to social media and content creation and AI and video and all the things, I don't think it is the silver bullet. I don't think it's the end all and be all, but I think when done right, it can make a big difference in your business. And at the end of the day, time is our most precious asset. I feel this very deeply as a mom and a wife and a business owner. So I really am all about how can you use content and social media to attract business, attract people that you want to work with without taking a ton of time. I don't think anyone in real estate needs to become a full-time content creator. I don't think you need to become an influencer. That might be a little bit of a hot take to say, but I think you need a strategy and a plan just like any other part of your business. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Feel free to use the chat if you have questions, and we will dig in. And like I said, we're going to have a lot of fun. So this three-part series, part one, we really kind of dug into AI. Part two is more into the specific social media platforms. And then part three was our content is today, which is our content creation masterclass. So, and I know those other ones were recorded as well. I'm not sure if where those live, if they're on the website or if they're on YouTube, but
Yes.
um,
There
okay.
should be on our website. I can also put the link in the chat so you guys can just access those.
Okay, cool. I have a feeling someone's going to ask. So, all right, awesome. Yeah, and if you get a chance, I would encourage you guys to go back and watch the other pieces because they all kind of go together. If you haven't watched the other ones, it's fine. You're not going to miss out, but they are helpful because it's sort of, three pieces of the pie, so to speak. And for this series, I did want to mention, like I said, and I'll share this link at the end. I do have a link that I put together for you guys that has all of these slides. I just bundled it up into one big PDF. So if you want, you can scan this if you're at a place where you can scan it. If not, it's all good. I will send it to the team, and I'm sure they can send it out as well. And I can see if I can drop this link in the chat also. It's just katielance.com /NCJAR. And when you go to that link, it'll pull up a web page, it'll ask for your name and email, and then we'll send you that PDF. It'll come right to your phone, but then it'll get sent to you through email. Check, by the way, sometimes our emails go to spam or promotions, so just double check if you have different multiple inboxes. Okay, so let's dig into our topic today. We're talking all about content creation. And the reason why we're talking about content creation is social media is rented ground. And if you're sharing anything during this presentation, by the way, feel free to take a picture. I always love after I do these webinars with you guys, and a lot of you will take pictures or selfies and you'll tag me, you'll tag NCJAR, and I'm going to hop on social later and would love to connect with you. And as much as I love social media is rented ground. We don't own it, right? And so it's really important when we think about content creation, when we think about your strategy. I often will get asked, should I be on Facebook? Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on LinkedIn? I really think you need to be number one, where you like to be. What platforms do you enjoy? And then number two, where are your clients at? Where are your clients hanging out? But at the end of the day, we're not guaranteed anything. So I'm a big believer in creating a content strategy and a content plan and a content library that goes with you wherever you go. So maybe that means you're on Facebook now, but next year in the future, you're on TikTok, or down the road, there's a new platform. When you own your content, it's a really, really powerful thing. I would also say it's also important that you have an email database, right? We're not talking too much about email today, but having an email database, I think, is really important. I would actually be curious, those of you watching live, do you have an email database? Just give me a quick yes or no in the chat, if you have an email database that you are regularly using. And no shame if you don't, by the way, because I know there's a lot of folks who do, but maybe you don't for whatever reason. Again, we're not really primarily talking about email in this webinar, but I would encourage you to have some sort of email marketing system, whether that's a CRM that your office offers. There's so many different ones that are out there, but owning your email and your email list also really, really important, right? I see a few yeses. Um, Takesha, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Donna says, yeah, need to build an email database. Yep, still building. Carmen, Frank, awesome. So social media is rented ground. So if social media is rented ground, let's think about, why is it important that you spend time creating content? Now, by the way, everything I'm talking about today is free. Now, it does cost your time, so time isn't necessarily free, but we're talking about what we can do organically without spending ads. And it's important to think about the why, because it does take time. I don't think you should spend 3 hours editing a reel or anything like that, but you are going to need to take some time. And we'll talk a little bit about this today. I have found that the agents and brokers that we work with, and we've worked with thousands of agents over the years, the ones that are getting business from social media, they really have a couple things in common. Number one, they're consistent, right? Doesn't mean they're posting every day, but they're consistent. Number two, they're showing up, they're being intentional, they're engaging, frequently online. And then number three, they've made it a priority. So they've actually put it on their schedule. And when you make it a priority, you make it a priority when you understand the why behind it, right? So number one, it establishes credibility. When people are Googling somebody like you, I'm looking for a realtor in Clifton. I'm looking for a realtor in, Short Hills. I'm looking for a realtor in whatever area, right? You want to kind of bubble up to the top, and we bubble up to the top in search based on a lot of different things. Now, when we Google things, we see AI right at the top. So how do we get featured in AI? Well, content creation, putting your content out there publicly, that helps and that makes a big difference. And we'll talk about that today. The second thing is it educates clients. As much as we think our clients are really educated and our clients have more information than ever before, because of that, it's really important that you put out your take on things, right? Anybody could Google how to move to New Jersey, what's the difference between New Jersey and New York or whatever it might be, but nobody's going to say it the way you're going to say it. No one's going to have your opinion and your expertise. And that is a big differentiator between what's happening with content creation now versus like 10 years ago. The third thing it does is it builds relationships. And with content creation, it actually builds relationships, which is a little bit of an odd thing to think about, because you're not really communicating with that other person. If you're putting content out there, they're seeing it, but you're not really necessarily having a conversation back and forth unless they're commenting. But it actually does build a relationship. I don't know if any of you have had this experience where you've put out a piece of content or you've posted something, and then you go to the grocery store and you run into somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw you went on vacation," or "I saw you did this." And you're thinking, "You did? You never comment," right? but people see what you're posting. A lot of people, especially nowadays, are kind of lurking. And it actually really does help to build relationships and to stay in touch with people over the course of time. If you've been in real estate a long time, you know it's really hard to scale keeping in touch with people. You send out postcards and emails, you do all kinds of things. But still, some people, you might run into someone again, you're at the grocery store and you run into someone and they're like, "Oh, are you still in real estate? Oh, we just bought a house." And you're like, "Are you not seeing my, postcards and emails and et cetera, et cetera?" But being consistent can really actually help to stay top of mind to build relationships. Number four, it's differentiation. So you might be feeling like, oh gosh, there's this person in my neighborhood who's doing this on social, or this guy's doing video. Look, I think there's enough business for all of us. And at the end of the day, they are not you. They are not you. And this is where I think there's a big opportunity with content creation. This also might be controversial to say, but when it comes to content creation, I want to see you. I don't want to see the AI version of you. And I realize that's a little bit of a hot take because there's some really cool things we can do with AI. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about AI towards the end. So I'm not anti-AI, but we work so hard to build the know, like, and trust factor that when you show up and I hear you and I hear your hot take and you tell me the thing that no other realtor in your area is talking about and you're telling me about the market, I want to hear from you, right? That's how we differentiate ourselves. And then the fifth reason of why this is important and why you should take time is because it is, I think, one of the best lead generators, right? People ask me all the time about generating leads. When you put out your own content, especially video content, by the way, which we'll get into in a minute, you'll start to hear things like, "Oh my gosh, I see you everywhere. I feel like I know you. I feel like you're in my head." And those kind of people, when they're ready to work with you, they are ready to work with you. They're not calling 12 different realtors. No, they know you. They feel like they know you. And so it's now up to you to decide if you want to work with them. It's like the difference between attracting versus chasing, right? Attracting versus chasing. Donna says, all of this is so good and so true. Ah, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me know what you guys think of this. Does this make sense what I'm saying right now? Just give me a quick yes or no. Do you agree with what I'm saying? If you disagree, that's okay too. But just give me a quick like yes or no, like your thoughts on this in terms of content creation. And I would also love to know in the chat, are you creating content right now? Are you putting out any kind of content right now? Are you putting out video content, or reels, or TikTok, or podcast content, blog content? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Donna says, I think we get stuck in the likes. I look at the views. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up, Donna, because a lot of people do that. And again, this also might be controversial to say, but I don't think the numbers really matter. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at your analytics. I like to look at my analytics periodically, but people really lurk, especially with real estate content, because you are talking about one of the biggest decisions of most people's financial lives, which means people often will scroll, but they might hover and they might save what you're posting, but they don't always like and they don't always comment. And a lot of it has to do just because it's real estate. So it's not personal. Amy says, yes, awesome. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Carmen says, yes, reels and stories. Love that. Frank says, yes, there are reminders that while everyone is posting, yes, exactly, our perspective. That's what it's all about. So I reached out to a couple of our clients recently. We run an online academy. It's called the Get Social Smart Academy, where we work with agents kind of in a group setting. And I reached out recently and asked some of them some of their thoughts with content creation. Kathy Smith is someone who's been in our academy a long time. She says, I think it's a good way to educate and keep in touch with clients. Most of my clients start living in other states, so I can't have coffee or meet for lunch. Sending videos or graphics can keep in touch with a lot of people. And I actually love this point because so much of content, people think it's what you post publicly, right? What I post to my Facebook page, what I post to my Instagram. But honestly, because real estate's such a relationship business, there's a lot of power in the one-to-one, right? There's a lot of power in you go to a listing presentation and you're competing with three other people, but you're the only one who sends a video. And in your car, you pull up your phone and go, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I really enjoyed chatting with you today. I'm going to send over that paperwork as soon as possible. Let me know if you have any questions. This is my cell. Feel free to reach out. Love chatting with you. There's something really powerful about that, right? Krista says to stay top of mind, create conversations, right? Which is what it's all about, creating conversations. The goal on social isn't always I post something, I get a lead. It's more of I post something, you're creating conversations that often lead to business down the road. I often say small conversations lead to big conversations, right? So in the world of social media, you might wonder, why are people posting about their cats or their dogs or their travels or what they had for breakfast? And I'm not saying you have to post all that, but when you post about stuff that's relatable, like what are you watching on Netflix or what book are you reading or wow, that's a beautiful sunset, that opens the door to create a conversation, to go, oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful sunset. Oh, I saw that in my backyard last night. Where do you live? Oh, I love that neighborhood. Oh, your cat is so cute. Oh my gosh, I have two cats too. Those tiny conversations often lead to bigger conversations, right? Donna says a good gauge is stories, so you see who's looking. Yeah, I love that. Amy says, I'm not good about putting out content, trying to figure out something that's of value and differentiate. I don't want to say the same thing every agent. I love that you're saying that, Amy. And one of the ways to differentiate yourself is when you're putting out content, you want to ask yourself, does it have an opinion? Okay, does it have an opinion? So if you're putting out, hey, here's the market stats of what's happening in the month of April, the stats are fine, but the way you make it your own is you give your expertise. You say, hey, these are the numbers, but let me tell you in real words what this means, right? Or instead of doing, hey, here's 3 tips for first-time homebuyers, you are, you might say, here's 3 tips for first-time homebuyers. And let me tell you personally, if it was me, if my mom was moving, this is what I would tell her. So and that's not on the slide here, but I just wanted to address that really quick. That's one way to stand out immediately from everybody else is adding in your opinion. Audrey says, I agree. Post in the past, trying to figure out. Okay, cool. We're going to give you a bunch of examples in this webinar too. I said this a second ago, but honestly, the leads you get from great content are so much better. And look, there's a million different ways to get leads in real estate. I don't think any of them are right or wrong. I just know from experience that the leads from content are so good. And the first time it happens to you, the first time someone messages you on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been following you for, months. I've binge watched all your content. I love your vibe. My husband and I are moving and we wanted to chat with you. And you're reading this going, I have no idea who they are. That is amazing, right? Because a lot of you probably get your business from past clients and word of mouth and referrals, which is great. But imagine if you could get like another 20% from people who just find you because they are Googling somebody like you and they like your vibe. That's really kind of the power of all this. Thank you, Carmen. I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about creating a consistent pillar content plan. Now, if you're not familiar with the idea of pillar content is typically content that is somewhat evergreen or timeless. So it's things like who pays for what or how to find a lender. Like it's stuff that you get asked all the time. Pillar content is also content that you can post today, but you could repost 3 months from now. You could repost 6 months from now. And having kind of a steady flow of pillar content is a great way to be consistent. And there's a couple tips on the screen here of kind of how to think about this. So I think number one, we don't have to be all things to all people. Who do you want to work with? And I would encourage you to think about who are your people? Like who have you worked with recently that you're like, I love that person. I want to work with more people like that. What was it about them? Was it something with their personality? Like, what was it about them? Alternatively, there were probably people you've worked with who you're like, I never want to work with somebody like that again, right? So we have to kind of think about that because what you put out in the world is what you are going to attract back. So if you love, I'll give you a quick example. We have someone in our academy who went through a divorce many years ago, and she learned a lot, and she has a really big heart for working with women going through a divorce. So she decided to really niche down in her content and really create some content around women who are going through divorce and what that means financially, what that means with, buying or selling a home. She's actually partnered with some other folks in that kind of space. And what's so fascinating about that is now because she's really been specific of who she wants to work with. I asked her, I said, Leslie, are you getting leads from other types of people, like non-divorced people? She's like, yeah, she still gets a lot of people who reach out to her from other demographics, but she's getting more of the people she really wants to work with. So again, everyone's got a little bit of a different niche, but especially nowadays, nobody wants to work with like the generalist. Okay. I think my own experience, if I needed a brain surgeon, heaven forbid, I'm not calling the doctor who can like do it all, right? I'm calling like the specialist in town. So really think about who you want to work with. And that's going to, first of all, it's going to make content creation a lot more fun because you're actually going to be talking about something that you're passionate about, right? If you don't like working with first-time homebuyers, don't do content about first-time homebuyers, right? Put out what you want to attract. The second is brainstorm. And I recommend the best place to start with content is what are the questions that come up time and time again? This week, this last month. You might even look in your email. What are those frequently asked questions? And then the third part is when is it going to happen? And sometimes this is the toughest. When are you going to create it or edit it, distribute it? I recommend just getting it on your calendar. And the easiest thing I recommend is putting aside probably about an hour or two once a week. Maybe it's at the end of the day, the beginning of the day, depending on, whatever your time schedule is, but setting aside an hour or two where you can post content, schedule content, maybe even sit down and create a lot of content all in one batch. I'll give you a little hint. I have found that if I'm going to do my hair and makeup and record one video, you better believe I'm going to record like three or four or five. And this is the idea of batch creating content, where you create a lot of content all in one batch. I don't post it all right away, but if you can batch a lot of content and get it ready for the future, your future self is going to love you, right? So we'll get more into that in a minute, but just getting it on your schedule and a simple schedule that is repeatable for you. So in terms of what type of content to focus on, again, there's lots of different platforms. There's YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and podcast and blog content. Again, as I said in the very beginning, just keep in mind social media is rented ground, right? We don't own it. So I would rather you create content, whether that's short form content like Reels, 30-second content, 60-second content. Maybe you're creating longer form content like for YouTube, whatever it is that you want to do, you create that content and then you were using these platforms to distribute that content. Now, again, you don't have to be everywhere. I recommend picking probably two, maybe three platforms that, again, you like to be on and that your clients are on. And if you're at the beginning stages of all of this, one of the things that you might consider doing, if you do have an email list, a lot of you said you do, and if you don't, now is a great time to start. I would recommend sending an email to your clients or anybody in your database and saying something like, we are working on serving you better with the content we post. And we're just wondering, where are you spending time online? Is it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, none of the above? And people will tell you. People will definitely tell you. The thing is, you don't have to be all things to all people. And this is a great thing to share if you are taking pictures and you want to post something to social. Feel free to take a picture. You don't have to be all things to all people. I have a good friend of mine who often says, she says, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I might be somebody's shot of tequila, which I love that. You might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you may be someone's shot of tequila. And that's okay. You don't have to be all things to all people. What happens when you put content out there and you put yourself out there, there's going to be some people who are like, oh my gosh, I love their vibe. I love what she has to say. And there's going to be some people who don't. And it's all good, right? There's enough business for everybody. So I want to kind of walk through and kind of break down some of the pieces of content creation and what this looks like. I'm a big believer in spending time brainstorming evergreen or timeless content ideas. So again, these are things that come up time and time again, like who pays for what, how to find a lender, the biggest mistakes first-time homebuyers make, what's the number one thing you tell sellers, why decluttering is key. And I would recommend, this is on your screen here, is you might make a list of your recent past clients, maybe people you've worked with in the last 6 to 12 months. Literally, I would take out, if I was doing this, I would take out a piece of paper and I would write down the names of everybody you worked with. And when you're writing down their names, write down next to their names, what what things came up? What issues came up when you were working with them? Maybe they were veterans and they didn't know about some of the veteran loans. Maybe they were going through a divorce and you had to assist through that. Maybe they were, helping their parents because their parents were, downsizing or moving to a senior community, whatever it might be. Write those down and out of that list, look at that list and go, okay, out of this list of people I've worked with and these issues and things that came up, who did I love to work with? Right. So if you've got a list of, I don't know, 10, 20 people, however many people you've worked with in different topics that came up, you could probably pull at least a few of those and go, okay, those are the kind of people I want to work with. What came up when I worked with them? And how can I create some content that attracts more of those kind of people? Right. I also think I really believe in this idea of looking at your life as content. So there's a balance with content. On one hand, I do think it's important to schedule some time to create some content. I have done this religiously for at least the last 10, 12 years at least, where I sit down honestly once or twice a month. I usually set aside a couple hours once or twice a month. Sometimes it's once a week, but typically once or twice a month. I sit down, I batch create a lot of content, I edit it, I get it all ready to go, and it is like ready to go. However, there's also just stuff as you are out and about that you can share. And the thing about real estate is people love to kind of see the behind the scenes. So we don't want to be filming when we're driving, obviously. But let's say you have a really full day and you've got back-to-back appointments. You might have 30 seconds when you're in your car and you can pull out your phone and say, hey, I'm in between appointments. This is such a full day today. If you've ever wondered, like, what's the day in the life of a realtor? Like, this is what it's all about. I'm headed to a home inspection. If you've ever wondered what the heck a home inspection is, this is what it is. And that little piece of content, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be edited. It could get posted as a story, which, by the way, that's one of the reasons I love stories. Some of you mentioned you post stories, is because they're kind of this unfiltered life as it happens. And the reality is, we are all multifaceted, right? I know for myself, if you follow my stories, I post my morning cup of coffee because I have a big coffee cup collection. I'll talk about my boys and some of the sports that they're doing. I'll talk about business and the clients we're working with. And it's a nice way to kind of just again sort of look at your life as content as you are out and about. We often think, oh, my life's not that exciting. Who really cares? People are interested. People are curious. Like, what is a listing presentation? What actually goes into an open house? Like all those little things that we think aren't that exciting, people love to see that. So you can also sprinkle that into your content. We talked a little bit earlier about pillar content, right? Pillar content that is evergreen or timeless that you can repurpose and repost. One way to think about this is to diversify your content with different content pillars. So I have 5 pillars on the screen here: people, places, things, events, and stories. And this is kind of a nice way to diversify your content because everybody resonates with different types of content. People might be client stories, right? It could be a specific client story, about buying or selling or investing, whatever your niche is. It could be a story about someone who's impacted you. It could be a story about somebody in your community. Stories are really powerful. When someone does a video and they say, I've got a story for you, let me tell you about this story of so and so. Do you know so and so? They're the local owner of this store. People tend to lean in to a story, right? Places, why you love where you live, the best place to grab a cup of coffee, get a slice of pizza, the story of the home you grew up in. Things, what's the best thing about real estate? What's the thing you tell every client? What's the most important thing when your home is on the market? By the way, if I haven't said this yet, feel free to take a picture of the slide. If you already downloaded the slides, awesome, you already have them. But this is a good thing to take a picture of because you've got about 15 content ideas. So if you're like, I am strapped for ideas, these could be like your next 15 videos, okay? Can't miss events every year. This is a big one with events. I often see agents posting like the PDF of the flyer from like their city of like, hey, here's what's going on this summer. That's okay, but what's better about that is I'd rather see you do a video where you've got that flyer maybe in the background and you're like, "Hey, these are the 10 things that are happening this summer, but let me tell you what we love to do as a family. Oh my gosh, we love music in the park. That's happening on the second Tuesday of every month and we love to do that because blah blah blah." Again, you're adding your personality. You're not just saying, "Hey, here's some events," right? Anybody could do that. Every other realtor in town is talking about the events that are coming up. But are you saying what you love and why, right? So can't miss events every year. The event that sparked you getting into real estate, you sharing your real estate story. A lot of people don't share that story for whatever reason. You might be, a third generation realtor, or you might have just joined you might have just got licensed last week. Like, what's your story? And by the way, if any of you are new to real estate, don't shy away from that. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to admit I'm new. I would love to hear your story. Share that journey. Maybe you decide to do a little bit of a series sharing that journey. If, maybe you were in nursing or you were a teacher and now you're a realtor. Like, what did you do before that's going to, help you with what you're doing now? Or if you have been in real estate 30 or 40 years, tell that story. Like, I would love to hear that. And then stories of your first listing, your first client, how you got into real estate, and again, additional client stories. So when you make that list of clients you've worked with and topics that came up when you worked with them, and you're thinking about who did I like to work with, maybe not as much. Also think about were there some stories like, oh my gosh, I remember we walked in and they were really nervous about they had to declutter and then we did this and that really made a big difference. Like start to kind of brainstorm stories that you could tell. Obviously, we want to protect confidentiality. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the idea is to think about really positive stories that we could share, and sharing is a great way to create some content. Okay. Um, Another big thing when it comes to creating content is create content not just to promote you, but content that your ideal client wants to see. I think this is also important because a lot of times we see, I'll go to an agent or broker's Facebook page or Instagram, and it's all like just listed, just sold, or market updates, which is fine, but a lot of that is like very promotional. It's all about you or it's all about the house, right? And the reality is most people are not going to like or comment on that content unless maybe it's your broker or the client or like a good friend or your mom, right? So that's promotional content, but we want to diversify that content with content that's helpful, content that's about the community, content where you're sharing helpful information, and again, answering those frequently asked questions. Now, one way to stay organized is to use something called a content grid. And some of you may have downloaded this in the past if you've been on any of my other classes. I'm going to see if I can drop this link in the chat here really quick, see if I can type and talk at the same time. If you go to katielance.com/content grid, okay, I think that link works. I just put the link in the chat there. And if you're watching this later on the replay, you could just go to this link. I shared this link in the last two classes, but if you missed that, I wanted to share it again here. This is a free content grid that we created years ago, and we update it every single year. So if you don't have the updated version, feel free to click the link in the chat and just put your name and email. When you put your name and email in, by the way, the content grid is going to get sent to your phone and then also sent to your email. This is like a multi-page PDF. And what I love about this is it's a really simple spreadsheet we created. And when you pull this up, you're going to see about 30 different content ideas. So to be honest, the way a lot of realtors use this is they will download it, print it up, have it by their computer, and when they are sitting down once or twice a month to post or create content, they've got ideas right in front of them. Now, the content grid itself is somewhat generic. So what I recommend is once you download it, not right now, but at some point when you download it, print it out. And when you go through it, I would say take a pencil or a highlighter and write in maybe notes, things that you like, things that you don't like. You can cross certain things out. There's going to be certain things that aren't applicable to your market. You're also going to get, when you download this, a blank copy of it, and then you can just print those out. A lot of people will print out a blank copy every month to kind of help map out their monthly plan. And then you're going to get a bunch of ideas as far as like content creation and some of the apps I use and stuff like that. So feel free to download that. Okay. I promised you I would talk a little bit about AI. So let's talk a little bit about AI. And I would just be curious really quick, how many of you are using AI in some regard? Like, let me know in the chat, yes or no, if you're using like Claude or ChatGPT, are you using Gemini, are you using Canva? And if you're not, it's all good either. I'm just curious. Let me know in the chat really quick. Are you using some sort of AI in your business? I'm going to imagine a lot of you say yes, but it could be a lot of yeses and nos. So no shame either way. Nina says Claude and Gemini, just dabbling, not really prefer to be organic. Yeah, I agree. I think you have to be careful with AI. Again, I use it in my business, but at the end of the day, we can't use AI to replace us, right? I see a lot of agents who are just using AI to like come up with their whole content strategy or come up with all their emails and come up with their social media. And I think, again, this might be kind of controversial to say. I think it's making some people a little lazy, and a lot of people kind of start to sound all the same. I see this all the time. I'll scroll through social media, and I'm sure you see this too, and you're like, yeah, social media, or yeah, I could tell ChatGPT wrote that. You can just kind of tell when you use it a lot. So I think it's beneficial for sure, but used in the right way, right? Frank says mainly for buyer, seller, and expired scripts. Okay, that's cool. ChatGPT and Claude, a lot of ChatGPT. Okay, so I actually have over on my YouTube channel. If at some point, if you like my style, I have a whole YouTube channel with a bunch of different playlists. And this webinar is not about AI, but I do have an AI playlist. So if any of you are curious about how I use AI and how I teach AI, I have a whole bunch of training on there on ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Canva and all that good stuff. So it's just at Katie Lance over on YouTube. That's why I have a little screenshot right there of one of my ChatGPT videos. So I think it's important to leverage AI to assist with content, but again, not replace you. And again, and this is not even on the slide, but I think we all know this. We always have to double check for fair housing. What I like about AI when used correctly is it can give you kind of a first draft. So, for example, let's say you sit down, you're batch recording a lot of content. You've got 4 or 5 videos. You can go into, any of your preferred AI tools. I'll just say ChatGPT to keep it easy, and you could say, "Hey, here's five. I just created 5 videos. Here's what they're all about. Can you help me come up with a, optimized title or optimized description or hashtags?" And they're going to come up with something. And it's going to get you probably 50% of the way there, right? We don't want to just blindly copy and paste. We want to look at it, add our own personality, take out some of the repetitive words. These are some of the things we're seeing agents and brokers use these type of tools for pretty efficiently. Some of you mentioned scripts, so video ideas, scripts. If you're doing any kind of interview content, which is also another type of content, we see this a lot where realtors might do Zooms where they're interviewing their lender, they're interviewing their favorite business owner, they're interviewing local leaders, and they're doing that kind of Zoom style. If you've never interviewed someone, it can be a little daunting because you want to be prepared, conversational, but prepared. And so this is where AI can kind of help you come up with a few question starters, so to speak, ideas for reels or stories, and then really optimizing your content. I find for me personally, I like to use AI to help optimize my content. So I will have videos, and again, I'll say, hey, here's a video about this. Can you help optimize this for search engine optimization? Can you help optimize this for AI? Especially, as we mentioned in the beginning, when people are Googling you or somebody like you, and we see people's names popping up in AI, it's like, how do we get our names up there? Part of that is putting out relevant content, but also making sure our content is optimized. I use Canva quite a bit. Their AI imagery has gotten better and better, which is great. And then editing videos, there's actually a great AI tool that I use. I don't put out AI videos myself. Somebody actually messaged me the other day and they're like, that video looks like AI. I was like, well, that wasn't me because I don't do AI videos, but I will use AI tools to help edit my videos. And one of the tools I use, it's at the very bottom of your screen on number 3. It's called Descript. And by the way, I'm not affiliated with any of these tools. I'm not paid to talk about them. I just use them. I'm going to talk about stuff that I use and I like. So Descript I've used for a couple years now. And with your videos, you can actually upload your videos to descript.com. It's not an app, it actually lives on your desktop. You upload it, and there's a few AI tools that will fix the sound, which is great. You can actually kind of fix the sound. There's a button that will, through AI, will take out the ums and the ahs. It'll take out some pauses, and it'll just kind of clean up your video like really quick and easy. So I think video editing through AI is actually a really great opportunity as well. I saw a couple questions in the chat. Um, Ruzika, hopefully I'm saying your name right. I really don't like it when they're using GPT to write the information on the listing. It's a novel a mile long. Yeah, and you can really tell oftentimes when someone's using it for listing. It's like, okay, that's definitely ChatGPT. So again, it's a great first draft, but it's not the final draft, right? Um, can you please put your YouTube, Facebook, and other social media contact in the chat? Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Frank, I can do that. Maybe I'll do that at the very end just to keep it flowing, but I can do that for sure. That's sweet. And actually, to keep it easy, Frank, let me just put my website. If you just go to katielance.com, I have all my socials linked there. So that might be, now that I'm saying that out loud, that might be the easiest thing to do. But yeah, I can drop the other ones in at the end if you'd like. But yeah, if you just go to my website, I think I've got all my social handles either at the top or the bottom. So. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Okay, so we've talked about content a lot. I want to, I've got about 20 minutes left, and I want to talk about getting yourself into a routine for content. And by the way, if you joined us a little bit late, welcome, welcome. We're happy to have you here, talking all about content creation. So get yourself into a routine. For me, this typically looks like once or twice a month. One of the things I do, like right now, we are at the end of April, so I'm already looking ahead to May. And for me, May is going to be a busy season. I have a high school senior who is graduating in a few weeks, which is crazy to me. So May is very busy, which means it's even more important that I start to think ahead about my content, right? Like, when am I going to post? When am I going to create content? Vacations are coming up for some of you, right? So think ahead to when am I going to create some of this content? Again, for me, I like to set aside kind of a big chunk of time once or twice a month. I often will set aside 2 to 4 hours where I'm going to create a bunch of stuff. I'm going to edit it all. So I'll sit down and record 4 or 5 videos. I will edit it all. I use, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I use the tool descript.com because I can edit a video super fast. I can take the video, upload it, get it fixed up in, you know, 5 minutes, which is great. And then have a go-to spot for recording. So I typically record here. I'm in my home office, but I also sometimes record in my backyard. Sometimes I record in my car, not driving. The car is actually a great place to record because the lighting is usually good. Your angle is usually pretty good. There's nobody walking around. But get yourself into a routine. The more you can make all of this a routine, the faster it's going to get. The less it's going to be like, oh, I need to make a video. No, you need to make a lot of videos, right? It's just part of your lead generating activity. It's not like I gotta check social. It's like, yeah, I gotta check my social really quick. I'll tell agents all the time, would you wait, a week to check your email? No, we don't even think about it. We check our email all the time. It's the same thing with social. It's the same thing with content. It's just got to be part of your routine, if that makes sense. Keep it simple. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment. I record everything on my phone. I do have like a simple, like cheap $20 tripod that I got on Amazon. I have some cheap lights. I don't even think you need any of that. I always say done is better than perfect. I don't know who needs to hear that, but done is better than perfect. And quite honestly, that's kind of the videos that are also performing really well is stuff that's a little bit off the cuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, by the way, that doesn't replace if some of you are using like a professional videographer for your listings, like that's a whole other type of content. And that's, I think, really valuable if that's in your budget. But just know you don't always have to do that. So simple is good, which is key. Carmen says, does Descript enable you to speed up the video and compress the file size? That is a good question. You can speed up the video. I don't know if it compresses the file size. I haven't looked into that. That's a good question. Um, I would imagine that you probably could. I've never had an issue though. So what I do with Descript, once I kind of fix it in Descript where I fix the sound and take out the ums and the ahs, and if I need to speed it up, I'll just download it. And then I have a Mac and an iPhone. So I'll download it to my computer. I will often just airdrop the video from my computer right to my phone, and then I just upload it. And it's usually not a problem. And I have some pretty big files, so it's usually not an issue. Um, but yeah, I'm sure they probably do that. It's very robust. There are different levels of Descript. There's like a free version, there's a paid version, and then there's like another paid version that's a little bit more expensive. I think I have like sort of the cheapest paid version, right? Sort of middle of the road. But yeah, that's a great question. I'm pretty sure that they do that. And if they don't, their files are not as big, so that maybe they're automatically doing it. Yeah, my pleasure, Carmen. So you want to get yourself into a simple routine, right? But also a simple routine for what you're saying on camera. So simple routine for where you're filming and time and how long it's going to take, but also get yourself into a routine for creating content. Instead of sitting down going, okay, I need to create something. If you have a routine, you're going to do it fast. And this is like my favorite formula. What's the video about? Who are you? What's your big tip? And have a call to action. So if your video is like something about first-time homebuyers in New Jersey, that's what you're going to start with. So instead of saying, hey everyone, I'm a realtor, I've already scrolled past you, right? We want to get right into it. So what's the video about? Um, so it might be something like, hey everyone, are you thinking about buying your first home in 2026? Let me tell you the biggest mistake that every first-time home buyer I'm seeing is making. Hey everybody, I'm Katie Lance, I'm a local realtor, and the number one thing I tell every first-time home buyer is dot 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 dot. Hey, if you have questions, like and comment below. If you enjoy this, make sure you give me a follow or reach out if you have any more questions, right? What's the video about? Who are you? What's your number one tip? And then some sort of simple call to action. And the call to action doesn't always have to be, hey, if you're looking to buy or sell real estate, that's a really big ask. Again, most people are not going to comment publicly, but a small ask is, hey, what do you think? Like and comment below. Do you agree? Like and comment below. Do you have questions? Like and comment below. As silly as that sounds, when you ask someone to like and comment, more people are actually going to do that. And those small little actions lead to your content getting seen by more people. It leads to your content getting shown up more often. Um, and a little bonus tip at the very end is watch your time when recording. And I record all my content on my phone in my camera roll. I don't really record it in the app. Why? Because social media is rented ground. I don't want all my content living on TikTok. I don't want it living on Facebook or Instagram. So I often will record on my phone and my camera roll, but I will look at the time and I try to keep it under a minute. Typically, you can record longer, but kind of short and sweet, I find is what's best. Be prepared, not scripted. You can't, if you prefer to have a script, that's fine. There's some apps, a lot of apps have teleprompters baked into it. I like to use Google Documents or Google Sheets to stay organized. I will often like think ahead of time what I'm going to talk about. I'll type out a few notes. I do love a good notepad, so I might even just take out a notepad and jot down a few notes. Before you hit record, if you can just jot down a few thoughts of what you're going to say, it doesn't have to be scripted. It'll 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 make you be a little bit more confident, right? So instead of being like, so I want to talk about, you already know what you're going to talk about because you've already thought about it, right? So, and by the way, this is all a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get, right? There's no way around that. Create a routine to organize your content. So if you're feeling like these are big files, Carmen mentioned that earlier with big files. I like to get my videos off my phone. And I was actually just joking yesterday with my mom. I'm like, I need to clean up my phone because I have too many videos on my phone. Usually once a month or so, I'll take videos, especially for business, and I will upload them. You can use Dropbox, you can use Google Drive if you have some other cloud sharing system you use just to get them off your phone. You can even organize them in folders. For me, it's very simple. I have a 2026 folder, 2025, 2024. I just upload them to that folder. What's nice about that too is by uploading them, getting them off your phone, you still have them saved somewhere. So especially if they're evergreen or timeless, if Instagram goes away tomorrow, you still have your videos saved that you could repost at some point, right? I mentioned this earlier. Again, the business reason for doing all this is what does it feel like to work with you? What does it feel like to work with you? So often I'll go to an agent or broker's social media and I'll see listings or I'll see different pieces of content. A lot of times it's great, but the biggest thing that's usually missing is them. What do they sound like? What do they stand for? What are they all about? And the elephant in the room here is I know when it comes to getting on camera, a lot of us, if I can be real here, we do not like how we look. We do not like how we sound. We do not know how to do it, so then we don't do it. And I will never forget, many years ago, I had a very dear friend who very lovingly reminded me, she was like, Katie, that is how you look, and that is how you sound. So you got to get over it. So I will lovingly tell you the same thing, right? We are always our own worst critics. For editing, keep it simple. Keep it really simple. Here's a simple example. Again, I like to record just on my phone. If you're active on Instagram, you can upload it to Instagram Reels. I like to add captions and text on screen that talks about what the video is about. I don't do a whole lot of fancy video editing, but captions are important. So why? Because most of us don't turn the sound on, right? I think it's like 80% of us don't turn the sound on when we're watching a video. So always put captions on. Have some text at the top of the screen so people know exactly what the video is about. It's like the cover of a book, right? Imagine going to a bookstore and there was no covers. You'd be like, how do I find the book? So have some sort of title on the screen, have captions. And then at the bottom of your video, those are other captions, right? That's like the verbiage, that's like the text under your video. So you'll often see someone do a video and they'll say, hey, read the caption below for more information. Or hey, if you'd like more information, read the caption below. Having a little bit more information in that caption can also that's also a really good thing. If someone stops and hovers to read what you're saying, that's actually a signal that, oh, that person might be interested in your content. You can save it as a draft or save it to your phone. And again, you can use AI like ChatGPT to help with some of this. Amy says, do you have recommendations on when to post permanently versus stories versus highlights? Um, yeah, I would say your stories, I love your stories for when you're out and about. Stories are like unscripted. You just came back from your office meeting and you heard this great speaker and you want to share about it. You're at your kid's baseball game and you saw this really cool thing that happened. You randomly ran into a client and you took a selfie. Like I look at your stories as kind of like these unscripted stuff that just happens during the day, whereas what gets posted on your feed is more of your pillar content. So it's your listings, just listed, just sold, open houses, but it's also frequently asked questions, client stories, tips for first-time homebuyers, things like that, right? So all those sort of pillar content pieces that gets posted to your feed, whereas like your day in the life is more like stories. Now, by the way, what gets posted to your feed can also get shared to your stories. Every time I post a new video, I will share it from my feed to my stories, right? Because not everybody is scrolling through the feed. Some people might miss it. So that's sort of the differentiator. And also with stories, you could post every day on your stories. You don't have to, but that's a nice way to kind of easily post stuff. With your feed, you really only need to post once a week, maybe twice a week. You could do more than that. Some people post every day. That's a lot. But that's all, there's a difference there in cadence. So great question. Okay, I've got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to kind of keep it moving here. Decide when and how you will publish your content. I typically post manually. You can use a scheduling tool. You can use later.com. I've used this. Meta Business Suite is free. Loomly is actually a new one I've been using lately. That's a great one. Um, just pick something and be consistent. There's lots of schools of thought, like should you post manually? Should you schedule? And a lot of this has kind of been debunked. It used to be that if you scheduled something that you wouldn't get as big of a reach. And it's sort of been debunked by a lot of different people. So I say do what is easiest for you. If it is easiest for you just to post to multiple platforms, which typically I do, I will just upload and copy paste to multiple platforms, do that. If you don't have a lot of time, if you would prefer to sit down and schedule out a couple things, that is fine too. If you're new to all this, you're probably going to need to try a couple different things to see what works for you. One tool I have used for a while, this is at the very bottom, is repurpose.io. I use this because I am on a lot of platforms. And if you're a little bit more advanced, if you want to put your platform on a lot of different platforms, repurpose.io is really nice because you can upload it once and then automatically publish it everywhere else. So I could upload a reel to Instagram and I can use repurpose to automatically publish to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever else I want to go. So also kind of depends on the budget for sure. Couple more things here. Create a simple distribution plan. So every piece of content, you should have a plan of where it goes. It's not just one and done. If you've got one video, and I have an example here, one video, upload it to your Facebook business page. Maybe you share it to your profile, share it to your story, upload it to Reels, share it to your story. You might share a link to your email database. Sometimes people don't do this because they feel like they're annoying or spammy, but you have to understand people aren't seeing everything, especially nowadays. Reach and viewership is kind of at an all-time low. So you want to distribute your content to different platforms, which is key. And that's basically what this graphic looks like. If you've got one piece of content, repurpose it. I often will take a video. I can get the transcription. I can turn that into an email. I can repurpose. I can take one longer video and chop it up into shorter videos. So it's a little bit more of an advanced tip, but it's not just one and done. This is how we stand out in a sea of sameness, right? A lot of you mentioned that, how do you differentiate yourself? You differentiate yourself by showing up, by engaging, by being intentional, responding to DMs, responding to comments. I always say don't be a drive-by liker. Put out helpful content, share your hot take, share the thing no one else is sharing. Some of these apps I already shared. I love Canva, great for graphics. Meta Business Suite is free, great for Facebook and Instagram. Repurpose.io is a great tool for repurposing content. ChatGPT or Gemini for AI, coming up with hashtags, coming up with captions, optimizing your content. I mentioned Descript, that's a great tool for video editing. And then MiniChat, I want to share really quick. I actually have a quick slide on MiniChat. MiniChat is one of those tools where you may have seen this, where you're on social media and someone has a post and they say something like, hey, if you'd like my guide for this, like and comment below with this word and I'll send it to you. And you're like, how are they doing that? They probably are using a tool called MiniChat. MiniChat allows you to set up this like automated DM where you post something, somebody says something, and then you automatically send them something. So I actually have a quick example of this. I have like 5 minutes left. So I have a quick example. If you have your phone out, if you scan this QR code, this will take you to a post on my Instagram account. And this is actually a post from last year, but it's still relevant, which is why we post evergreen content, right? So you take out your phone, scan this, it'll take you to my Instagram. When you get to this post, this is a post about free resources. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't followed me yet, and then like and comment on the post. But when you comment, comment with the word free. And when you get to this post, you'll see there's lots of people who've commented free, 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 free. When you comment with that word, check your DMs because you'll get an automated DM from me that says something like, hey, thanks so much. Click here for your free resources. And then that'll take you to my website where I have my free resources. Now, by the way, if you don't get this, if you're scanning and going, this didn't work for me, just email me. I'll drop my email in the chat and I'll send you the link. But because every once in a while, when I do this demo in front of like 100 realtors, sometimes Instagram hiccups. However, scan this, like and comment with the word free, and then check your DMs. Okay, let me know if you got this. If you scan this, if you got a DM from me, just give me a quick yes or no in the chat if you scan this and got the little automatic DM from me. The reason why I'm sharing this is a great way to take people from Instagram to your website, from Instagram to your email list. Okay. So if you have, let's say you're doing some videos about first-time homebuyers, because you love working with first-time homebuyers. Well, if you have a guide, you might periodically say, by the way, if you'd like my comprehensive guide to buying a home in this area, like and comment below the word free, or like and comment below the word home, and I'll send it to you. So I was a little reluctant to set up any sort of AI automation because I check my own DMs. I think that's important. But I also realize when someone wants something like a guide or checklist or more information on a listing, they want it right away. They don't want to wait 10 hours until you're on Instagram again. So again, that's minichat.com. That is a tool that I've used for a while. Okay, last two things as we get to the end here. I have a slide here. Please take a picture of this because I don't know who needs to hear this. This is something that this is like my life mantra. Done is better than perfect. It's really easy to come to a webinar like this, get a little overwhelmed. You're like, that was really great. And then you just kind of go back to your life. Okay. Don't do that. Don't suffer from analysis paralysis. Pick one or two things that we talked about today, implement them immediately. Progress, not perfection, but done is better than perfect. And then the last thing, the next step, if this was helpful for you, I shared this in the very beginning, but if you missed it, download my slides. This is going to give you all of our information. If you enjoyed this one session, this was part of our three-part series. The other recordings are up on the NCJAR website, which is great. I know this is being recorded also, but you can scan that. That'll go to katielance.com/NCJAR. Let me see if I can drop that link in the chat. Again, put your name and email in. That'll go to your phone and it'll get emailed to you. Again, check your spam or junk or promotions tab. I don't know about you, it drives me crazy. I have like 6 different folders in my inbox now. So check those, but that'll get that to you. And then, like I said earlier, feel free to connect. If you just want to go to my website, katielance.com, that'll give you all my socials and you can connect with me as well. All right, we are at that hour mark. Let me know what you guys think. Would love your feedback. Was this helpful? Let me know in the chat. Give me a quick yes or no if you enjoyed our time here together today. If you have any other additional questions, let me know. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ella so she can wrap it up here.
Thank you, Katie. That was great. Hope you guys enjoyed that session. So, like Katie mentioned earlier, the recordings and the materials, we will send that over to you guys as our follow-up email. And if you guys have any questions or you guys need to revisit or want to revisit the other sessions that we had a couple months ago, we will send those over to you guys as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll drop my email in the chat really quick. Feel free to email me if you guys have any other questions. I think I answered everything, but if I missed something or you want to ask something that maybe you don't want to ask in front of everybody on a webinar, you can email me directly. So, and I just want to thank NCJAR for inviting me to do this series. It's really been such a pleasure. You guys have been awesome to work with. So I just really appreciate it and just really I just think it's awesome that you value education like this so much and that you're bringing this type of education to your members. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Katie. Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna put if you guys don't know our website, I'm putting that in the chat. But other than that, I will send over everything, like all the materials, recordings that like that will be useful for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, you can also email me, ella@ncjr.com. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. Okay.
awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day. Thank you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.